I'm Ben Byes.
And I'm Carly Byes. We've been married for 12 years and together for 15 and have 2 boys.
This is our story of a controlling church and spiritual abuse and how it shook our relationship and clouded our view of God.
Our desire is that our honest view of pain and trauma in relationships can provide hope and the courage to hold on when life does not turn out as planned,
while also providing a dash of humor and loving banter.
We are still working to find wholeness, and we welcome you on our journey. Welcome back, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. I'm back to doing the welcome because, you were great last week. You were really great, but this is just maybe more my thing. And,
yeah, whatever.
I'm just kidding. You asked me to.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah.
And then she said, because we lost followers last week, and you did it. So let's be honest how the situation goes.
Oh, man. Well, anyway, thanks for coming back this week and listening to our story. We are at the crossroads of... Wasn't that one of the ministry names? Crossroads Ministry?
Yeah, that was my ministry.
That was your ministry that you wanted to start.
No, we did start.
You did start.
Okay, we didn't want to. We did.
You did for 24 hours?
Yeah.
Before your basketball hoop was shut down because you don't know as people.
Yeah, before I got scolded.
That's right. Yeah. Anyways, thanks for coming back and joining us in the,
This is what you've all been waiting for. What really happened? I'm sure some of you are thinking, what really happened? I wonder if the church is still going on. Is that pastor still a pastor at the church? Mm-hmm. Listen.
Did somebody pass away?
You'll get the answer today, this afternoon, whenever you're listening. Yes. This is the answer day for you.
Yes, it is. Okay, so I guess we'll just kind of get right into it. Last episode, we ended with, we gave our 30 days notice. We were leaving LA. Peace out, LA. I hate you.
We don't
never
hate
moving
you,
back.
LA.
No, I do. I really dislike LA because of our experiences. I understand that people love LA, and that's great for them. We've had some tragic experiences that have made me just really dislike LA. I don't like visiting there. I don't like going to restaurants there.
I still love it.
Well.
I do.
Anyway, so we gave our 30 days notice beginning of February 2009 and 2010.
Yeah.
Ooh, 2010. And this was going to be like our first week of not attending church on a Wednesday night or a Sunday, this first week of February. And so I don't even know what we were even planning to do that week, but we didn't care what we were going to be doing because it was going to be different than anything we were doing in the past. I think we started probably packing up maybe looking for a place to live.
Or a job, I don't know.
Yeah.
I guess it didn't matter. We could live on the street corner and make as much money as we made running a company, so.
Probably more. You'd probably make more money collecting change at the end of a freeway than you did.
Yeah, true.
All right, so that was the first week of February. So Tuesday.
But remember what we did that first Sunday?
Yes. Okay, so that first Sunday, Ben and I and our 2 closest friends who Ben worked with and his wife, who was my closest friend, we were in each other's weddings. We went to the church together, just continuing to give a little background and context for those who are forgetting. Yes, our closest friends. Our first Sunday we were free. We went to the beach. We went to Palos Verdes.
But before that, we went to Denny's for 2468.
Yes, we'll explain 2468. 2468 was
$2, $4, $6, $8.
Yes, so they had different menu items that were $2, $4, $6, $8.
And obviously we chose the $2 because no one had money.
But yes, we would like text each other and be like 2468 question mark. It kind of became our routine for. It felt like a really long time, but I guess it was only just for a couple weeks that we did it because, you know, they were the ones that left the church first before we did, which caused me to spiral into a deep depression and where Ben found me on the couch. It was because of them leaving, and so they had only decided to leave really, and what I think ended up being a week before we did. It felt like a lifetime, but we ended up leaving around the same time after all of that. So we did our Denny's meals. We went to Palos Verdes and just kind of walked around the cliffs for our first Sunday, and we have a picture of it actually in our house.
Yeah, in our house. It was our first Sunday away, and us four walked around the cliffs of Palos Verdes, and
it was magical.
Yeah, it was like, I haven't not been to church on a Sunday for years.
Yeah.
I mean, forever. And I don't feel bad about not being there.
Yeah, that was the amazing thing was like, it was so freeing to be like, I'm not going to feel guilty about this. I'm not going to feel like this is a bad thing or I'm a bad person or a bad Christian. Yeah, it was pretty amazing. Just that feeling of being, I guess, just away from church. And really, I think it just felt like we had a little bit of ownership over our own lives for the first time.
Yeah.
But I still do remember living in a lot of fear. Like, there was still so much fear. It wasn't like that fear was just released, you know, when we decided to leave. There still was a lot of fear because when you're manipulated for so long, you know, it takes a lot of time to kind of I guess just reacclimate yourself to a new reality. And we'll talk about like PTSD in, you know, later episodes, but that was so real for us. But yeah, our first Sunday was amazing. And I guess it was that Tuesday, right? After that first Sunday, that Tuesday. Go ahead, Ben. You take the lead.
Yeah, I was still working at the business because I was trying to close it out, and mostly because my name was on everything. So I had to figure out a way to get this thing wrapped up so that I wasn't in so much debt. Which,
spoiler alert, that didn't, I mean, we were in a lot of debt.
Yeah. So I got a call from my best friend who we went to the beach with, and he had started working for another one of our friends who had left the church about 6 months prior. And once he left the church, he was also an armor bearer. Mm-hmm. It was like, cut him off from our life. Yeah, cut him off from our life. We're not going to talk to him anymore. We're not going to call him. I don't know what's going on with him. Why would he leave? Also, it had come up that his parents had hired a private investigator.
That's right.
To investigate our pastor. And the private investigator didn't come up with anything crazy, but basically said, look, he's not worked at UCLA like he told you. He didn't graduate with a UCLA degree.
They came up with that info.
Yeah, and mostly that info came to me because the pastor was saying, oh, I did this, and why? How could they say this, and how could someone hire a private investigator? And he was so mad at his parents and tried to separate him from his parents because of it, and he had nothing to do with his parents making this decision, and I applaud his parents. They did the right thing.
Do you remember how you felt at that time? Because I remember kind of feeling like, oh, well, good for them. As opposed to like...
Carly felt that way. I didn't, obviously.
6 months prior, I would have felt like, oh, dang, like, they're going to be struck down by lightning for trying to do this, you know, but I think...
No, I think this was still 6 months away from us being ready to leave.
Yeah, so but it was September of that year.
I know, but I was still on a point where I was like, I can't believe someone would do that.
Yeah, I remember not feeling that way totally, maybe as strongly as you were.
So anyway, he had left the church, and we had broke contact with him, and then when we left, my other friend
Which was really hard. That was a really hard thing to break that contact because we had been friends for years, and that was just, it was it was hard to, you guys were armor bearers together. And so I don't want to like downplay that this was just another person that left the church that couldn't hang. No, this was somebody who had been there as long as we had been there, who had given as much, if not more, in different ways, who had decided to leave. And we couldn't really contact him or ask questions or anything like that. And that was difficult.
Yeah.
And it was sad.
Yeah. And so we get to this point where our other friend who left got a job with him because he was actually successful.
Yeah, he actually had a successful job.
And he got a job with him, and he was working with him for the week or two before we had decided to leave also.
Yeah, really.
Immediately when he left,
really
he got a
beginning
job
of
with
January,
him.
yeah.
So he'd been working with him for 2 or 3 weeks, and he called me, not the friend who had left, but the other friend who was working with him, and said, hey, this other guy needs to talk to you. He needs to tell you something. And I said, all right, just put him on the phone. He said, no, he wants to talk to you in person. So this is Tuesday night, end of January, beginning of February, and I thought, all right, well, I'll go talk to him.
And was this do you remember if this was like the first time you guys had connected again?
Oh,
in
for
like
sure, yeah.
6 months? Were you excited to like see him, or like was it?
No, I remember thinking, I was excited to see him, but like, I don't know what's going on here.
Yeah,
Why would you
yeah.
want to see me in person about something?
Yeah.
So, went over to his place he was staying at, and he began to speak with us and relay to me.
But why did he feel at this point that he could talk to you guys?
I think he felt like he could because we left the church. Yeah.
Yeah. He didn't feel he could connect with you guys any sooner on this issue because we were still at the church. So now that you had decided to leave the church, he felt like you guys were a safe place.
Yeah. So he sat down and he immediately started crying and relayed how the head pastor had sexually molested him. And I'm not going to go into a lot of detail about what exactly happened because that's not my place to do it. But our pastor had multiple times coerced him into trying to do things that he didn't necessarily do, but had tried to get him to do things in a sexual nature. And again, I say he didn't necessarily do all these things, and there was nothing. No, there was a lot of crazy stuff, but he stopped a lot of it. But then our pastor, my friend relayed to me that our pastor had told him multiple times, "You can't uncover me." So in other words, when Moses' son uncovered him when he was drunk, he said, "You can't do that to me. I'm your pastor. God will strike you down." Or, "I'm sorry, I was just lonely. My wife's leaving me. I had just had a lot of emotions going on. Don't you dare bring this up to anybody, else God's going to strike you down. Or God is not going to have favor on your life anymore." And as my friend is telling me this, I obviously start breaking down myself and crying and thinking, how could I be in any way a part of this situation where a person in leadership would use their position to exploit someone under them and then use the word of God to keep them silent. And it was really hard. It was really hard. I think all three of us cried together for a long time and just thought, I felt so bad that I would ever say something bad about this person because they made a choice to leave, and they should have left years early. I mean, one of the things that came up is he tried to do it while we were in Africa. Well, me and my other friend were trying to hitchhike to help out to sound. He was trying to coerce him into doing some of these things.
But even worse, yeah, so this is when like things instantly became way worse than we even thought that they were.
Yeah.
But even worse than just coercing him into things and saying, if you tell, you're, a goner. He used the Bible to okay so much of it.
Yeah, just twisting of the scripture.
Twisting of the scripture to
say how
say
you're supposed to
how-
cover your pastor and care for him.
and certain sexual acts were ways of covering your pastor and protecting him and twisting scripture to basically say that these sexual acts are okay because this is what the scripture says and you're an armor bearer and you're covering me and blah blah blah, all these things. Like that's the worst part of it.
Yeah, and again, I want to be clear about this. It wasn't that they weren't having actual sex. It was like him laying on top of our pastor, clothed, but laying on top of our pastor with our pastor was face down, laying on top of him so that he could pray for him and covering him, but our pastor finding enjoyment from it. So, but yeah, it was continual use of, oh, you're just covering me. You're taking care of me. This is how we do things. And that was brought to our attention. And then from that point, immediately there was two people that came into my mind that I thought this happened to them. I just knew without a shadow of a doubt. It was like the bomb dropped, and I knew this happened to them also. So I called the first one, who was also an armor bearer, and I said, "Look, man, this is what's going on. This is what I heard."
And he was still at the church.
Yes. I have a feeling this happened to you also. I just know it. I have a feeling. And
Were you telling him that, hey, so and so just
yeah,
let
I
us
didn't
know
say
all this
I
stuff?
didn't say exactly who it was, but I said someone told this about our pastor. I feel like this happened to you too. Did it happen to you? And he immediately started crying and didn't answer me. And I said, "Hey, listen, like just tell me if this happened to you." And he continued to cry and couldn't answer me and hung up the phone. And I said immediately, "Okay, that happened. There's no way he would have such a strong reaction to it if it didn't." Then I called the other friend and I said, "Look, man, did this happen to you?" And he said, "It didn't happen to me with our head pastor, but an associate pastor, aka
Carpet mopper.
carpet mopper, didn't molest him, but had called him multiple times and said, 'I think you're so attractive. I'm so attracted to you. You make me so horny,' and
Sexual
very
advances. Lots of sexual advances.
sexual advances. Nothing happened physically between them. But there was many innuendos, and this was an associate pastor at the church under our head pastor who was making same sexual advances to two other men in the congregation.
That we know of.
That we know of.
At this point.
Exactly. And so I said, "Oh, hell no." It's crazy how it happens, and immediately you know this happened to other people. I just know it. Why did I push off the feelings I had for so long that something like this could happen? Mm-hmm. And I just knew immediately the two people, and the only two people I called, it had happened to them. And so at this point, we're sitting in the living room and say, "All right, we're shutting this mother down. Like, we're shutting it down."
Well, first you had, I mean, maybe you had that feeling at that time, but you needed to call the associate pastor at the church, who was basically running the church at this point, because our head pastor was distraught over this couple that originally left before Christmas. Was even more distraught that more of us were now leaving, like his life is crumbling. So this associate pastor, who was a big influence in our life, who was basically running the church at this point. Like, you guys went to him that evening, and it was super late.
Right.
And
yeah, it was super late. We called him and said, "Hey, we need to meet with you right now." Like,
so the three of you.
The three of us went and met with him. We got in his minivan.
Yeah.
We would go for a drive, and we're like, "Look, this is what's happening. I don't know what you're doing there right now," because we had left the church, and for us it had only been a week or 2 weeks. For our other friend, it had maybe been 3 or 4 weeks, and the other one had been 6 months. I don't know what you're doing now, but I'm just telling you right now, I'm gonna burn this mother down. Like, this needs to stop. This needs to be cut off. He can no longer do ministry, and I will stand my ground and make sure it doesn't happen. And this, look, you're in charge right now. You need to make sure this happens. And
what was his response?
he started crying immediately and said, I didn't know this was happening, and I'm so sorry. And we will shut it down.
Well, and so meanwhile, I'm at home, and Ben has just, like, let me know that there's some crazy things that have happened. I knew who he was meeting with, and he was going to be going over to Associate Pastor's house to talk with him, and I was just kind of like, and you were home so late that night. I remember it was like, I don't know, 1 or 2 in the morning, which was actually hours earlier than he's normally home at this point. But I just remember thinking, like, what is going on? Like, and you came home and told me, because I think I stayed up to, like, make sure you got home, and, like, you know, I just couldn't imagine what was going on.
At this point, she wasn't wishing for my death. She actually wanted me to leave.
Well, I wouldn't go. I mean, don't be too generous on yourself. I mean, I think, yeah, we were starting to become teammates.
Yeah.
And there was obviously something going on, and you had connected with our friend who had left 6 months prior, so that felt like a big deal. And you went to go meet our associate pastor to tell him whatever was going on. And so when you got home and you told me, I mean, I can't even explain the anger that we felt.
Yeah.
And the sadness.
Yeah. And to say, like, she felt that way, but just to be completely clear, I was ready
totally
to strangle someone to death. Mm-hmm. Like, no joke. Like, that doesn't, there was no part of me that felt any allegiance at this point. It was completely
You had completely
cut off.
flipped.
Like,
I had flipped a little sooner, but yeah, you at this point were like, Like, do you feel like maybe for the first time, like that was kind of the thing that really...
Yeah, because before I was like, I gotta leave, but, I hope you do okay.
Mm-hmm. To the pastor.
And at this point it was like, done. No,
Mm-hmm.
don't talk to me. I will handle you with my hands.
And I remember asking you, okay, well, what's the plan now? Like, what are we doing about this? Because, like, this is not okay. And if you haven't already learned, I'm very justice oriented. Can be a very black or white person. And we didn't really know what we were going to do. Like, the associate pastor was going to be like, okay, I'm going to talk to him. And it was kind of like left in his hands to handle. But you guys were like, we're following up with you every hour to make sure you're taking care of this. Because I think there was a part of you that was like, is this going to be taken care of? Because if not, I'm going to mother F and make sure it gets taken care of. And I remember feeling the same way. Like, I'll do what I need to do. I'll contact NBC. I'll contact ABC. I will contact all of the local news and share this freaking story so that this man never steps foot in another church or anything, let alone, a church. Like, this cannot be swept under the rug like every other thing had been swept under the rug at this point. Like, we were officially at the end of our capacity to give an F about him. Yeah.
Yeah. And then, was it that Thursday?
So we didn't go to church Wednesday.
Yeah, that Thursday, I had a meeting for another job. It was an interview.
You're going to say where it was?
At the school we went to. Yeah, the school that we went to coach football. And I thought it was just an interview, and I contacted a professor I'd had at that school.
Well, tell first, because last episode you had shared how you and your buddy went to go take the C-Best. Right, you broke down.
Yeah. We broke down, and then, anyway, I contacted the coach again, and he was like, oh, amazingly, our running back coach just left.
Which was a week later. Like, it just is, I don't want to, like, put it lightly how God set this up.
And the running back coach just left, and I played running back. So I was like, oh, cool.
And you didn't just play running back. You were an All-American running back. You had the running back. You had the records.
I had 2 records.
You had 2 records at the school, at college. And so it wasn't just like, oh, this opened up. Like, there were no positions available the week prior when you guys went out there to get your transcripts for your CBEST test.
Yeah.
He contacts you the week later that we find out this terrible news and says,
well,
our
I
running backs
contacted
coach.
him again, and then he said, "Yeah, oh,
Or you know, you
I
said
can't believe
like
you
it
contacted
was great
me.
to see
Yeah.
you. It was great to see you.
I can't believe you contacted
you
me.
wouldn't
This guy
believe-
just quit.
Yes.
Do you want to come in for an interview?" I was like, "Okay." So I learned this news on Tuesday. I went on Thursday. Before we went on Thursday, I contacted a professor I had,
In college.
and I hadn't talked to him in 6 years. And I'd only had him for one class, but I knew he was trustworthy. I was like, gosh, if
and
there's
he's in
one,
the theology department,
yeah,
right?
I feel like if there's one guy that I know would give us some guidance on this, is this guy. And he was like, yeah, I'd be happy to meet with you.
And did you tell him, like, at the time?
No,
like,
I said we're going through some turmoil in the church we're at. I know that you've worked with churches before. Could you meet with us? So he said, yeah.
And I also don't want to put lightly, like, how amazing he is. And, yeah, you hadn't seen him for 5, 6, 7 years.
And this, again, this is encouragement to those who minister to people and love people. The whole reason I contacted him is I had him for one class, and then I spoke at a chapel at the school we were at, and he gave me a little picture with a note on the back just saying, like, I'm praying for you. It was great, and I thought, gosh, someone who only had me for one class that would care that much about me.
Mm-hmm. I think he saw something in you.
I feel like he would still listen. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, he really was the only person you could think outside of the church that we had been attending what felt like our entire lives at this point, which was really only like 7 years, but it was all we knew about ministry. And we had zero connection other than 2 football games we had gone to since graduating college. Yeah. And he was the first person you thought of that, like, maybe we could talk. Like, we literally had, like, no one to go to.
Yeah.
Like, who do we go to talk about this mess? Like, not only are we leaving an abusive situation, but now there's, like, sexual stuff going on? Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Like, where do we even go for this? And yeah, so he was, like, so willing.
We'll totally meet with you guys. So we drove up together. We were still living in Los Angeles. Drove up together. I went to my interview. Did interview with 2 or 3 coaches, which I was a horrible coach at the time. Just thank God that somehow he put in their hearts that maybe you'd be okay to coach. It's still one of my embarrassing moments, like talking about things. It's just like so embarrassing.
But do you think it was that you were a bad coach, or you had been, like, you hadn't even, I don't even think you had seen a football game.
No, I don't think I'd watched a football game in 5 years.
Yeah, like, you didn't even have time to watch NFL games. Like, Super Bowl wasn't an option. Like, this love that you once had was, like, again, just another thing that was kind of taken from you.
So, yeah, totally true. And I end up meeting with him. We were supposed to meet with this professor at like 3 o'clock or something. Ended up meeting with the coaches, and then the head coach was like, "Well, you're hired." I was like, "What?
Come and meet the
team." So I went to like my final interview, went with him to practice, met the team, was introduced as the new coach, as one of the new coaches, and all the while thinking, "Oh my gosh, like, what is
what is
I
going
think
on?
I just like left the church like." And the crazy thing about it is the coach who hired me said, "Are you still a part of the church?" And I said, "No, I'm not." He's like, "All right, I don't feel, when you were a part of what was going on when you were a student, I didn't feel comfortable with it. If you were still a part of it, I would not hire you." And I thought,
at least someone was hearing God.
Yeah, I was like, well, thank God. And I thought, wow, I can't believe, again, how God...
He was one of your coaches there, so
coaches.
He knew that you were part of this Bible study, and people knew about this Bible study at the time. So,
but again, one of those situations where it's like, wow, like God set this up so I can get this job now. And
we had given our 30 days notice or 28-day notice, like literally 4 days prior to this, and you were emailed and got a job on the spot.
Yeah, so I introduced the team, then went out to practice. Like, I think I'm going to run a couple of drills, like thinking, oh my gosh, I have no idea what I'm doing.
You're like, I swear I was good at one point.
Yeah. But I think it's just like anything else. It's one of those situations where it's like my resume carried me a little bit as far as what I was as a player. So
Yeah.
he's like, oh, wow, you were that
No,
good.
yeah,
And I'm
literally.
like, oh, jeez.
Yeah, literally, that was the only thing I think that carried you at that
Yeah.
point.
And then the professor we were supposed to meet with at 3 o'clock, I text, I'm like, I'm sorry, I'm still here. And I didn't get out of practice until almost 7. And he waited at his office for us.
Yeah.
And we went and met with him, and he gave us so much wisdom and understanding. And it was the first time in a long time we'd felt someone who was like really genuinely cared about us. And not about situation, but about us. And
Well, and like explain what part of his position is, not just at the college, but like he oversees.
yeah, I don't know exactly what it is, but he's overseen a lot of church turmoil, turnover,
Yeah.
and discipline for pastors. And so it was like a perfect moment for us to
Yeah.
come into contact with this person who had done
Who basically
research.
goes to churches to like make sure things are run like in order with like having an elder board or
Yeah.
just that
or
there's
if there's
things
something
done.
wrong going on at a church, he goes and helps clean up the mess, basically.
Yeah.
And we sat down with him, and at this point, I think we were like, "Oh, we need to shut down the church," but didn't feel like, I don't know if we felt like we had authority to. And he just shared some wisdom with us, and was just very kind,
Yeah.
and very kind to us, and loving to us, and was just shared some stats with us. I think we talked about before about how in a small church or a mega church without an elder board, 99% of the pastors could be diagnosed as narcissistic. So
And sociopath.
and a sociopath. So you know, I get how something like this could happen. And just he helped normalize the situation for us to say, you're not the only person in the world who's
Yeah.
gone through this.
Yeah.
But I'll help you walk through it.
Yeah.
You know, like basically saying, you're not crazy that this happened to you. But I will help you walk through what's going to come next.
Yeah.
And I'm with you. And so we left, and we were there almost 2 hours.
Yeah, we were
probably
there a
with
couple
him.
hours, and we're like, I think it's important to like mention that we're still in a place where, like, yes, we've left, but it's not just, and I don't want to like relate our situation to like going to war because obviously it's very different, but you don't just come back from war and just adjust to normal life like nothing ever happened. And similarly, on a completely different level, obviously, I mean, it's been like just a couple weeks and we are like mental whirlwind. I mean, I personally don't feel like I can even function in like what felt like this new normal life yet. There's so many things going on, so many loose ends. We've got this, you know, this terrible drama going on. We've got now this potential new job. Like, what does this mean? You know, like, I say this jokingly, but at the same time, it's kind of serious. Like, we're not even great at like being able to talk to people outside of what our old church members were, you know. So we're kind of thrown into a new reality that like we really weren't prepared for, but didn't even realize how unprepared we were for it. But yeah, he was so wonderful just in terms of like, yeah, making us feel as normal as possible for how abnormal we, I think, were feeling.
Yeah. You're like, how were we, as a grown man and woman, able to come into a situation like this?
Yeah.
Smart, college educated. I mean,
Good families.
good families, you know, successful in different areas in their life. Not like, again, the Star Wars bars, people who have no friends. You know, we're
Or don't know
popular,
how to use an email.
normal
Or
people.
mop the carpets.
Exactly. No, we knew how to actually vacuum a carpet. So that happens, and then on Friday we basically told the associate pastor, look, you're shutting down the church. You don't have a choice. And he was on board with us.
Yeah, he wasn't.
But at the same
like,
time we
against
said,
it at
look,
all.
you're shutting it down.
And people need to know. that this is-
Don't get me wrong. We will be there to make sure it shuts down. So we haven't been to church for a week or week and a half. We show up on a Friday.
Well, because they
and
call it a like town meeting,
a town
basically.
meeting, yeah.
for all of the church members to be there on a Friday night. Like, important to be there. You have to be there. And yeah, we showed up, and it was, I think people were kind of like shocked to see us there. And was the couple that left before Christmas, were they there?
I don't think so.
Okay.
So we show up to it and expecting the pastor to be
So
there.
he was confronted. Our associate pastor confronted him on the allegations.
Yes.
And so we knew that was happening, and then we were expecting him to be there to, like, basically share what was going on, repent, and be flogged.
Yeah. And let me punch him in the face and break his nose.
Yeah.
But he wasn't there. Didn't show up. The coward didn't show up.
Well, you got to give more of the story. So we get there, and people are like, what the hell's going on? Like, what is happening? And yeah, we're waiting for him to be there, and the associate pastor kind of gets up, and at this point, like, nobody else like knows what's going on or even knew what was going on. And the associate pastor reads a letter that the pastor wrote. And that was like the way of telling everybody that he wasn't going to be there. And do you remember us? We stood in back at with the doors closed at the church. I felt like a freaking soldier. I remember standing in the back being like, I'm not letting anybody leave until they know the truth. I was so angry. And our friends were there too. And yeah, so he had read a letter from the pastor, and the letter was obviously very victim oriented, and but yeah, it was ambiguous, but at the same time he didn't fully deny.
No admitting, no denying.
Yeah.
It was total fluff. It was total crap.
Yeah.
It was total crap. Well, still trying to make people feel sorry for him. And
yes.
then,
and I remember getting angrier by the second.
Yeah.
Like, this meeting will not end with this letter. Like,
Yeah.
no, people need to know there's more to it than this.
yeah, so at that point, the associate pastor basically says, look, the church's being shut down. Like, we won't hold services here from this point on.
Mm-hmm. And there was like a gasp, I remember, because people
Yeah.
were like still not fully understanding, okay, like, what happened? Because the letter was so ambiguous, and the associate pastor wasn't super clear at this point. Like, here's what happened, here are the allegations, and this is what's been going on, blah, blah, blah. So people were like, what? Oh my gosh, like, shutting down the church? Like, you know.
And then I think the associate pastor was still ambiguous in what he said about some sexual misconduct going on, and it was very ambiguous.
Yes,
and then
it was.
one of the supporters of our pastor got up and said, we need to support him. And at this point, I'm like, okay, flog her. Seriously? Dude, shut up. Shut up.
Yeah, there were definitely some.
There was a few that were totally
some
on his
that
side
were-
still. Like, totally, that's my pastor. That's my pastor.
And this is disrespectful, like him not being able to speak here for himself, and yeah, he's the pastor, like, we can't disrespect him this way, and blah, blah, blah. And I remember, I mean, I think several of us were like,
So we were about to freak out. I'm about to go take the mic, and then one of the armor bearers who was
one of the victims.
who didn't, the one who wouldn't answer the questions on the phone, basically got up there, and he didn't even speak necessarily, but said, if you knew what this made you feel like as a man,
Yeah.
you wouldn't be on his side. And got so mad, started crying.
Because he was married with a family.
Yeah.
So I think that was, I think
It's like,
that's important
can
to state.
you believe that as a man he would make me feel this way? Like, broke the podium.
Yeah, he was so angry.
So angry, crying, freaking out, breaks the podium, said, how could you ever support someone who did something like this? You can't imagine how this makes me feel as a man.
It was like his first opportunity
Yeah.
to even, like, express Because I think that was the first time, his wife even knew that this was,
Yeah, I don't know.
obviously,
Yeah.
had to be the first time she knew this was going on. I mean, not at that actual meeting, but that week.
And again, we don't know exactly what went on between them at all. We just know it was inappropriate. If it was a connotation or anything else like that, we don't know, but we know it was inappropriate.
Yeah.
Whatever it was.
Yeah, it doesn't matter, how bad it was bad and wrong. And it would, and use scripture to manipulate that, and that's not okay.
So
so that kind of startled everybody, because he broke the podium in half, the wooden podium, not like a little metal. This was a wooden,
awesome.
And we were like, oh yeah, now it's a party.
Now let's go. And after that, no one else came and supported him. But that was it. Like,
well, it's kind of like an open mic.
We had made
open mic time almost.
We had made a decision as friends. Look, we are shutting down. I don't care. I again, and we said it before, but I will stand in front of that church, and I will fight anyone that tries to come. Like, this church is being shut down. It will not hold one more service with us knowing what that pastor did.
Yeah.
Period. It's done. It's over. Will not happen. And it didn't.
Yeah, it didn't. Shut that mother down.
Shut it down. And that Friday was the last time anyone was assembled in that church. And either that Thursday or Friday, I sent our pastor a letter, and I might put it on Facebook if you want to go look at the letter I wrote to him, because it's really clear. I don't know how I had the clarity of mind to write it at this point, where I still felt so unsure about everything that was going on. But I'll put it on Facebook, and you'll be able to see the letter I wrote to him about just how hurt I was that he would manipulate people the way he did and turn people against each other. And it was like in an instant I saw clarity. Like in just this small instant, everything was lifted, and I saw all the things that he did to manipulate. So I wrote him a letter.
You were able to piece all of these things back. Yeah.
Sent it to him, and then he called me and said, I never meant to do any of this. And at this point I was like, look, you did. I don't care what you say to me. This is what happened. So you can try to spin it any way you want to, but here's the bottom line, is you are a master manipulator. You know how to turn people against each other and make sure that no one is on the same team so they can combat what you're doing. And to use the word of God is the most despicable thing that I have ever heard in my life that anyone would ever do. And that was the last conversation I've ever had with him.
Yeah, and that was really the first time you really stood up against him.
And I was like, no, you will
and
not
there was
act
nothing
like
in
a
you
victim.
That didn't.
I basically said, you're not going to act like a victim on this phone call. Stop talking to me like this.
Yeah.
This is you. This is
you're
your
the
problem.
Yeah.
And that's the last conversation I ever had with him. And I wish we could say, well, at this point, we, lived happily ever after, wash our hands. But you got to understand, look, this stuff happened. We're trying to close out the business, but my name is on all the papers. It's not, just leave. My name's on the papers of a corporation.
Well, and at this point, we wanted to leave more than ever, obviously.
Yeah.
We were so done. So done. We wished, there was no, we hope that people do well here, no, it was we need to get out of here as soon as possible, and we were trapped because of the corporate stuff.
And the week before, even before the stuff come out, we had started taking our names off the corporate papers, me and my other friend who was on it. So we'd started that process, but it's a long process. And then when all this stuff,
signed a lease.
When all this stuff came up, we're like, look, I'm not staying at this business. I'm not working with this guy. But everything in the business was going to crap. And so at this point, I know that we had a couple credit cards in the business that were overdrawn. Our cell phones bills weren't being paid because it was being paid by the business. And then we had a lease on the business that was going to last for another 6 months. So at that point, it was 6 months. Ended up being just over $20,000. And the business was done at this point, obviously, because we had all left and no one's going to work with the guy. But the owner of the building was still like, look, this is why your name's on the lease, man. Like
he didn't trust our pastor.
I get that the business is done. But you still owe me $20,000 if you're going to leave this place. Now, I'll try to get someone else to rent it, and if I do, I'll
prorate it.
I'll prorate it. But bottom line is, you owe me. I think it was over $20,000.
It was
like
over
23 grand, $24,000, something like that.
Yeah, he ended up cutting it down.
Yeah, it was $23,000, $24,000, something like that. So, okay, so we're leaving the church, we're leaving the business, all this stuff happens, but all of a sudden I'm on the hook with this guy who's a lawyer. It's not just like some landlord. He's a lawyer
and music producer.
He's a music producer. He's like, look, man, you signed a legal document. You owe me $24,000.
And
so
let's
you
be
guys,
clear that like $24,000 is a lot of money when you don't have a job and you're in major debt yourself. I mean, you were just getting a job, so praise God.
Yeah.
But we won't be honest with how much you were actually making. But yeah, $24,000 was a lot of money. It's not like, hey,
I have this money in the bank.
For someone who's overdrawn, has no credit card space themselves.
Yeah. Our credit cards were overdrawn. We couldn't pay our phone bills. And all of a sudden I own this too. So I get in contact with the guy who's still with our pastor. I'm like, look, man, like,
who is this?
One of the armor bearers that was still with our pastor. And I said, look, here's the situation. And I'm like, I get that I put my name on the lease, but you've got some skin in the game. Like, there's got to be some kind of situation. And he was like, oh, the pastor's so upset, and he'll sell his Mercedes in order to get you there, to get you some money. Obviously, never gave us a penny. Never gave us a penny, obviously. And then the associate pastor was going to sell some of the sound equipment, and we were trying to sell the building of the church in order to get us some money to pay off the business expenses. And bottom line is, honestly, we were so far back on our mortgage in the church that it ended up being repossessed, so we couldn't get any money from the church. He sold the sound equipment and one of our church vans to a church in Long Beach, which just screwed us, gave us no money. They were supposed to make payments, gave us no money. That was supposed to be money that went to us. So, like, all these things are happening around us. I'm like, oh, okay. Like, we can't get any help here? Like, could we get just...
Well, and everybody, like, not to make excuses for everybody, but, like, everybody was completely distraught by this news because we had been there the shortest amount of basically everybody else. Everyone else had been there for 10, 15, 20, 25 years with this pastor. So to have this come up and to feel like more than half of their life has been dedicated to this ministry and to this man was devastating on a different level that we can't understand. And so people were just, I think, didn't really know how to function.
Yeah, trying to survive.
It was literally survival mode for all of us for different reasons. And, you know, those that were there maybe for a longer time maybe didn't have it as bad as we did in certain times because their connection with the pastor wasn't as close. But everybody had a rough time. Yeah. Like, that's bottom line. Like, everybody had a rough time. Everybody was manipulated to an extent. Some people more than others. Some people's marriages were like on the rocks more than others. Because of how the manipulation worked, because of how the dynamic of the couple, whatever. But it was pure survival mode. So I think things obviously could have been handled better in terms of selling the church, all of those things. But like, nobody was able to even function. Not everybody even had other jobs. So it was like, yeah, I should probably follow up with this church in Long Beach that's supposed to owe us money. But like, I'm so depressed, I can't even do that because it's too hard. And if you understand like depression and anxiety, like you can understand like the paralyzing effect that it can have on you, and just how paralyzing the situation was for so many people. And maybe not for us as much because we had made the decision to leave before this news came out. for everybody else, this news had caused them to, they were forced to make the decision that they left because it was over. So we had a little bit more control over our life at this point, I think, than a lot of other people had. Therefore, the paralyzed effect was not as strong on us in that way.
Yeah. Good point. And yeah, so we were trying to figure out how to handle the situation, and again, I'm sure some people listening will say, well, why didn't you take this to the police? And well, here's the bottom line is, like, everyone who was involved with the situation was grown-ups.
Yeah,
you know,
everyone was
so
over
what are you going to
18.
say, like, this was molesting? No, it's not, because they're not under 18. You know, I'm sure you could come up with, I'm sure at this point you come up with a legal situation to say, you know, but there's not a lot of evidence to it either, you know, because it happened over the course of time. So, you know, we didn't feel like, well, we can legally do something. And then we're owing this money. And I remember calling some people and just saying, look, should we declare bankruptcy? And that was a serious conversation I had with 3 or 4 people. And I said, look, the building's on my name. And again, our landlord made my name on the building because he didn't trust our pastor. Like, he didn't. He trusted me. And all the conversation with our landlord, he could not believe, because he worked in the building next to us. He couldn't believe that we didn't have money. It made no sense in his mind that we worked as hard as we did,
And
as
long
many
as you
hours
did,
as
yeah.
we did, and were as competent as some of us in the business were. You know, like, you know, some people that are incompetent, you're like, yeah, your business isn't going to work. But talking to me and 2 of the other people that were in the business, he's like, dude, you guys are, like, smart, articulate. You have business sense. You have college degrees. In my mind, there's no way that you're telling me your business made no money and you can't pay me this money.
Yeah, like,
normally.
he was like, okay, come on, you guys. Like, don't try to play me, I think was part
Yeah,
of how he was
and
feeling.
I'm like, no, you don't understand.
Like, no,
It
this
just-
is really bad.
and it couldn't. So he's like, look, you owe me this money. So we had the discussion, and we considered filing bankruptcy. And in the end, maybe it's my, I wouldn't say loyalty or whatever it is, my
Allegiance?
no, not my allegiance. It's just my feeling like, look, no matter what the situation is, I made a decision to sign this lease.
Yeah.
So I need to come up with the money.
Yeah.
No matter what the manipulation was, like, I signed it. Like,
Yeah.
that was my word. That was my bond.
Yeah, like, regardless of
And no matter
feeling-
what the situation was, I
Right.
did it.
You
I
still
signed
made
it.
the choice to do that.
I made
yeah.
the choice to do it. And
And very manipulated into it and felt like you had a gun to your head, but still it was a choice that you had to own at that point.
yeah, so we made a decision, look, like, I'm going to own that choice. And I don't know what it's going to take for us to pay this off, but this, along with other debt, we're going to have to figure out how to pay it off. And we had talked to someone who was close to us, and someone who was close to us offered to give us a chunk of money, which we're so grateful for to this day. And we've never told anybody who that is, and we never will. And I said, are you sure? And they said, look, it's not going to affect us. It can help you. And it wasn't the whole amount. It was a small amount. I think it was like, not a small amount to us. It was a huge amount.
Yeah.
It's like $5,000 or something. For us, it's like, dude, can you? I mean, it was the
It was
most
more than that. I
generous
think it was
thing
10
in the
grand.
world.
Yeah, it was amazing.
And so I offered that to the landlord and said, I have this chunk of money now. Can we come up with some other situation? And I think he went from being us owing $24,000 and took more than what he gave us. We ended up owing like $14,000, and then he let us make payments on it. So myself and 3 other people sent us a check who were part of the business, sent us a check every month, and then we wrote a check to the landlord, and that was almost for a year and a half after that.
It was
And-
only a year and a half.
A year and a half or 2 years after that, but all of us, people would write checks to us, and then we'd write a check to him, and he let us do a payment plan on it. So we ended up paying it off. But at the time, I don't remember how much it was, but it was way more than, not crazy amount, but it was, $300 or $400, and we weren't making very much money, so it was a big strain for us.
Yeah.
But felt like it was the right thing to do to own up to what I had signed.
Yeah.
And our friends were the most amazing people to help us with. The friends that
Yeah.
were there in business are like, dude, I'll stand with you.
Yeah,
We'll
because
do
they
this
could have just
together."
been like, well, it's your name on it. Like,
Yeah.
that would have been, like, total jerk move. But we are fortunate that they were in a place to be able to, like, they had also gotten jobs. And so they were in a place to be able to be like, no, like, we're doing this together. And we've gone through this together. And we're going to, like, see this through together. And that was, I think that was a huge part of everybody, like, at least us, friends, were able to kind of close that chapter eventually, years later.
Yeah. So at this point, we'll close it with bliss, and everything from this point is perfect.
So
Like,
easy. So
Honestly,
easy.
like, it's been
life
the
is
best.
so
It's no big deal. Like, awesome. It's been the minute we left. It's been awesome since then. Not. But those are the basics of what really went down. Obviously, you can ask us some questions if you have more. There's details that we're not going to share because it's not our story to share.
But if you guys want to, like, get together on, like, one night and, like, go find this guy, like, I'm so down to do that.
Not going to happen, people.
We do know where he is, though.
Yeah. Okay, anyway.
What?
Not going to happen.
That's fine to say that.
Yeah.
We know where he is. And
Not in ministry, just to be clear.
okay.
Doing other things.
Well, that we know of. Like, he probably could have a secret church, but
Not that we know of. But that's it for this portion of the story, and I guess next week we'll get into.
yeah, we spend the rest of the month, like, I think, just trying to get out of there as fast as possible, get out of the area to move. We ended up getting a place in
Across the street from our work, yeah.
Yeah, across from campus where we went to school.
Student housing.
Yeah, which was so awesome, though.
So awesome.
And we'll talk about more of that next week. But and just kind of what our life began to look like post church, and really just the unexpected, like, hardships of what that really meant, because we had finally left, but now we were really dealing with, not right away, but we had to eventually really deal with the decisions that we had made while being at the church. And that's probably been one of the hardest journeys in all of this for us. Yeah. A journey that we're still on, and have come a long way. But that's kind of where we will go next with the story. But anyways, sad, angering, and we're sorry to the victims involved on every level. And thankful that we're still really close friends with those involved. A couple of them. Yeah. Thank you for listening and being a part of this with us. And we will see you next time. All right, so welcome to this episode's Final Four. So after a pretty heavy episode, we'll just go ahead and lighten things up a little bit by discussing this week's Final Four is going to be the top quirks or habits that each other has.
Yeah.
And
we're going to explain each other's.
Yes.
Or what we see them as.
Yes.
And then we will have a chance to rebuttal them if we need to.
Would you like to go first?
Sure.
Okay.
Carly's number one.
Number one.
Well, not number one, just
Your
first one.
Okay.
Yeah. Would be she's a little OCD, and if she gets one hand wet, the other hand has to get wet. And
have we talked about this before?
I don't know, but if you really just want to walk up to Carly sometime, you see her on the street and want to just freak her out, just have some water in your hand, wet your hand, wipe that water on one of her hands, and then walk away.
That wouldn't even be that big of a deal because I would just use the water on that one hand to get my other hand wet, which is what I already do. So,
Or tap her on one leg and not on the other leg.
no, I'm not like that. That's not how I am. The hand wet thing is like if you just rinse, like say you have like one hand is like dirty from either like cooking or you just need to like rinse it off quickly or whatever. You rinse that hand off. You don't need to like do a full on hand wash. You're just like rinsing the hand. So instead of just drying that hand, I have to make sure my other hand is equally as wet. Not even equally as wet. I just don't like it being not wet with the other hand. It feels left out. I don't know. I understand as I'm saying this is very weird. Very weird, but I know there's other people out there that are like this. Yeah, and then I dry them off, and then we're fine.
Yeah.
But I don't like an extremely dry hand with a slightly moist, wet hand.
Or the word moist for that matter.
Yeah. So, I don't know, sue me. But yeah, I guess that's kind of weird. So, if you see me on the streets and you do that, I'll be fine because I'm just going to get my other hand wet with the hand that you got wet. Okay, so one of Ben's quirks is, or his habits, I guess, is like when he decides that he's going to be like into something, he is like fully in. For example, like when he decided he was going to try keto for a couple months, I mean, homeboy is like super cheap, okay? He comes home with like the most expensive, organic, everything. And I'm like, how much did you spend on this? And he's like, oh, you know, not a big deal. And this is like just for him. So I'm having to make my own food. I'm having to make my own meals. He's deciding now he's going to start cooking and making his own organic grass-fed beef and organic vegetables and all the stuff that is
Never felt better.
That is now costing our family an arm and a leg. But yeah, he like doesn't like to spend money on anything, but when he decides he's going to get into something, I mean, we basically go bankrupt. I mean, it's unbelievable. Don't even get me started on like the self-help books. I think we kind of talked a little bit about your obsession of buying books.
Yeah, and I wouldn't say just self-help. I mean, it's nonfiction books.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's what I meant. Sorry, not like they're not fiction books, but they're
like business books.
Sure,
or,
but that's like a self-help category, is what I mean.
I guess.
Yeah, we had 3 books. 3 books arrived today.
Okay, that's for class. It's different, but
What class are you teaching?
the class for next year. I built a curriculum. I need those books as my textbooks. So anyway.
Okay, this is a PE class, everybody. Just so everybody knows, this is a PE class that he's teaching. So yes, your books are in regards to like health types of books. Anyways, we're also poor again because Ben's habits of going keto and his obsessions for diets, or I don't want to say fads, but I won't even get started on his supplement routine that he purchases.
Here's the bottom line. You know, we all want things in life. My want is that, not that I'm a rich person, but that I have enough money to buy whatever food I want to buy. And that includes grass-fed beef, free-range chicken eggs, free-range chicken. Like, that's what I want to buy. It tastes better. It's healthier for you. I'm a firm believer in these things.
Totally.
So it's expensive. It is expensive. I'm going to get wild-caught salmon. I don't want the farm-raised salmon that they make it pink in their little test tube, whatever they do.
No, and I totally agree with you, but you are only fully into it and like really okay with spending the money when it's something that you're wanting to do.
Yeah, but if I go and I'm going to get our kids milk, I get them organic milk.
Maybe you should grocery shop more often.
Yeah, if you don't want any money.
I guess so. Yeah, right.
All right.
Anyways,
on to the next.
We could be here all night, folks.
Another one Carly does is it's impossible for her to go into a clothes store, and not touch every piece of clothing as she
Okay,
walks
every
by.
piece of clothing is like a little bit of an exaggeration.
No, but if you're walking down something like
Just
at
like an
TJ
aisle.
Maxx
Yeah.
or is it inevitable that 2 or 3 times she's going to put her hand out and feel the material?
I'd say
of
more
the
like Target
shirt?
or something that has like more of a spread out selection,
It is
not just like rows of clothes.
It's a major habit. Like
Yeah.
she doesn't even know she's doing it.
Yeah.
I'm like, hey, you know you're feeling that shirt right now. Just
I'm
reaching
very
out and feeling
into
it. Just
tactile.
reaching
The
out and feeling
tactile
it.
person.
Reaching out and feeling it.
But you know who's also like that? Our son.
Yeah.
Truman is very much like that. Truman just has the need to touch everything. But
Yeah.
yeah, it is a habit. It's I guess it kind of goes along with my OCD
Yeah.
thing. One of Ben's other quirks and habits is that he has to double, triple check if he has turned the light off when we leave the house. He panics that the stove was left on. We haven't even used the stove for like 48 hours, and he's panicked that he left the stove on. Yeah. Is the oven on? Are the lights on? Did we turn the heater off? Did we turn the air off? I mean, he like panics, and like you double guess you can't.
There's been multiple times we've
turned around
being about like a half mile out, not like 5 miles out, but a half mile out, just because I'm like, I'm going to stress about this all day. I need to go double check.
And I know that it's not left on, and I'm trying to convince him, but he like can't get out of his mind.
My
He has
mind
to see
has
it for
to-
himself.
yeah.
So then now I'm annoyed, and then he goes in and checks and walks back out. It's like, yeah, it was off.
Which honestly, if
It's better to be
like,
safe than sorry.
It's better safe than sorry,
Totally.
but like in my mind it is irrational because I'll like there'll be like a light that we have that gets really hot and I'm like, well, that light can't be on because what if it starts a fire?
Yeah,
You know, like
you
it,
begin.
It's just
you
I
get
just
totally
I just
irrational.
think we're gonna come home and our house is gonna be burned down.
Yeah, you get totally irrational.
Yeah.
That is true with the things, and it happens most times we leave the house. I would say almost every time we leave the house
There's something,
together,
yeah, there's
it's
something in my
you
mind.
question: did I turn the stove off? Did I
shut the garage?
Yeah, did I? and like I have to remind you, okay, Ben, like you used the stove like several hours ago. We would have smelled that it was left on if you know.
Yeah, I don't know what that's about. I know there's been times when we're leaving for a trip and I would say to Carly, I'm telling you right now, I just went and checked the stove. Could you remind me of that
When I start to
a
panic.
day later when I worry that our house is being burnt down?
Gosh, you're so weird. So weird. Okay, go ahead.
Another quirk or habit, which I think this is normal for a lot of people, just not for me, is Carly keeps all her shoe boxes and then puts the shoes back in the shoe boxes when she's not wearing them. And I guess there are
a lot of people that do that.
There's a lot of people that do that, but yeah. And I guess that becomes, to me, an obsession, or not an obsession, like a habit.
It's a quirk, yeah.
A quirk because, like for me, I'll get shoes, and I'll have the box I'm throwing away, and Carly will be like, well, do you want to keep that box? No.
Why? You just bought a $150 pair of shoes. Why wouldn't you want to keep them nice?
Just put the shoes in my closet.
I'll just throw them in my closet. No big deal. So frustrating.
I've never bought a $150 pair of shoes, but I get all my shoes free usually. But yeah, so that's one. Not
My
that
clothes
big of
are
a
also
deal.
color coordinated.
Yeah, clothes are cool, but I think a lot of people do
That's
that.
pretty
Yeah.
normal. Yeah. I also have a lot of shoes, so I have to keep them in shoe
Yeah.
boxes to keep them organized.
And along the same lines, her obsession with making sure that like the towels are folded the right way,
yeah.
the correct way.
Yeah,
have to
the
be
correct
folded,
way, you're
have
right.
to be folded the correct way, or else how can they be on her?
Well, it's like
shelf?
making the bed. It has to be made correctly. Like there's one way to do it the right way.
Yeah,
If not, it's wrong.
yeah.
2 words: hospital corners. Ben has an incredible habit of leaving things in his pockets when he does laundry.
Well, not when I do laundry, just leaving things in my pockets. Yes.
Right, but it is found when I do your laundry. I can't
To the
even
point where
tell
our
you.
son now says, "Dad, Did you know we found in the laundry?
Yeah, because he probably walks in on me,
Cursing my
totally
name.
irate in the garage as I'm pulling iPhone. We've pulled out headphones out of the dryer, and this is all like in the dryer because it falls out of the pockets at some point. And listen, you're probably thinking like, oh, why don't you check his pockets? I'm sorry, I have a million other things that I'm doing. I don't have the time or remember to check the pockets of everything he wears when I'm washing. Like Ben literally goes through like 3 outfits a day because he goes to work, you have your work clothes on, and then you change into workout stuff, and then you change into sweats. Somehow all 3 of those pairs of clothing get put into the dirty clothes on a daily basis. So I'm sorry, I just don't have the time or capacity to be checking his pockets every single time I do the laundry. And I can't tell you the amount of time that I've had chapstick go through and that has ruined our clothes. I've been so angry at him about this. I mean, gum. Don't even get me started on the gum. The gum wrappers, receipts. I mean, when you pull the lint thing out every time you do a load, the lint thing is like it's mostly like receipts. And I mean, I've found money, and you better believe I keep that cash when I find it in the dryer.
She calls it her money.
It is. So sorry, you snooze, you lose. But yeah, it's a pretty bad habit of. I think just putting things in your pocket is a bad habit.
Yeah, put everything in my pocket.
Yeah, and you don't take anything out of your pockets when you get undressed. So, yes, there have been a lot of things. I think by far some of the worst things have been the headphones. The chapstick, because when the chapstick goes to the dryer, it melts and it gets all over the clothes and it ruins the clothes. And
I mean, just check the pockets.
and the pens, you've had several pens
Just check
too.
the pockets. So, and it's true. It's a bad habit. It's a bad habit. I have no defense for it. It's a bad habit. I do want to make it clear. I do also do laundry myself. Also, Carly's not the only person who does laundry.
True.
So, but yes, that is a bad habit.
Yeah, it's pretty bad.
There's no way to get around it.
There's no way of getting around
I
it.
probably have stuff in my pockets right now. Oh, nothing. I just put
my
these
goodness.
sweatpants on. So, last one and for Carly, and I'm gonna just throw one in there, and then go to last one. We've talked about it before, so I don't want to spend a lot of time on it. The ice or temperature of a certain drink, and the straws she uses, and then the cup she uses, because the cup has to be like a certain size.
This is so true.
The cup has to be a certain size, like that never fits in the dishwasher because it's too big, and has a
I hate a glass cup.
huge lip, and has to be a certain straw that is just the right size, and then it has to have ice. That one of the bane of my existence is the ice machine on a refrigerator. Just the sound of ice. I'm like, oh my gosh, more ice right now.
And I'm probably your worst nightmare when I'm pregnant because the amount of water I drink when I'm pregnant.
And it has to be water with ice. I'm like, do you have to have ice in the water
Well,
right now?
yes, I do.
In that cup
Yes.
that makes so much sound when you put the ice in it.
I am so particular about my water cups. I hate drinking out of a glass cup. I don't know what it is. I hate the fact that it sweats. I feel like water tastes different out of a glass cup. I know there's people that agree with me on this. Water just tastes different out of a glass cup. And I don't like that it sweats. And there's no glass cups that are big enough to sustain like the amount of water that I want to be able to sit down and not have to refill it after 10 minutes.
Yeah.
And there's tell me that there's literally nothing worse than when you go to a restaurant and you get a small cup that is not
horrible.
refilled. It's
Yeah.
terrible. I love when we go to a restaurant and they have big water glasses.
Yeah.
I just know it's going to be a good night.
Yeah. So I won't even go to my last one because that one basically took the cake for it.
No, you can go ahead.
I'll just mention it.
This
just,
is a bonus one.
Just hyper discernment. If anything's off, she understands and she realizes
Wait,
it.
what is it?
Hyper discernment.
Oh, my quirk?
Is that moved? Oh, I'm sorry. Did you touch? And here's the crazy thing about it is our son
It's the same way.
we will. he'll throw something away and there'll be a wrapper of candy in there, and he'll pick up the wrapper out of the trash and say, "Who ate this?"
No, it's like a corner of a wrapper.
Corner of a wrapper. Yeah, you wouldn't even know that it's.
Oh, this is unfamiliar looking to my everyday life. I wouldn't say that it's that so much as it's not hyper discernment as much as it's just more so like extreme perception.
Yeah, wanting everything in its place, and then, perception.
Yeah, just knowing if something's out of place, like walking into the room and being like, "What did you do different?" Or and Truman's that same way. He'll be like, "Why is this couch so close to the coffee table?" Because we record on the couch, and we put the couch really close to the coffee table where the mic is, so you can hear us better. Yeah. So if we don't move the couch back,
he'll wake up in the morning and say, "Were you using the microphone last night? You want to know how I knew the couch is closer to the coffee table?"
He's literally, and I just look at him and smile, and I'm just so proud. So perceptive.
Yeah, so perceptive.
That's a good one, though. I'll take that as a compliment.
Yeah. And one way that I used to take advantage of this perception is that when I was putting away all the dishes, I would purposely... No.
This is my last one for you.
But listen, I would purposely put a dish in the wrong place. Just to see...
freaking piss me off.
It would be like a cup, and I'd put it in the dish drawer. Or it would be
drawer?
Sorry. It'd be a strainer, and I'd put it where the cups are. I'd always do one thing out of place.
But it was just off enough where I'd be like...
She thought, maybe I thought it went there.
So annoying. So annoying. You're such a jerk. Well, which leads me to my last one for Ben. And his you guys, I don't even know how you are so consistent in when you help me pick things up or put dishes away specifically. You do it at about 93%. And what I mean by that is, he'll help with the dishes or he'll help by unloading the dishwasher. And for some reason, Ben is like incapable of following through all the way and finishing those things.
It's my ADD. I just start thinking of something else, and I'll put the dishes in one spot. Let's say I'm taking out the top rack. I put all those dishes away, but there's a couple things in the top rack that are going to go with bottom rack things, so I put them over to the side and think, when I put the bottom rack away, I'll put these away. And then I'll put the bottom rack away, and I'll be like, oh, yeah, I'm done. I've been thinking about something else the entire other time that I want to do or want to get done, and I go onto that thing and forget to finish the top rack thing that I put on there.
Yeah, so he'll it's like he's so close to finishing everything. But it's every single time he'll like do the dishes in the sink, but he'll leave like 2 items in the sink, or when he's unloading the dishwasher, you'll do like all of it except for like a couple things that you just leave on the counter. And I'm like, okay, did you like not know where they go, or just like it literally blows my mind every
once in a while
time.
it will be I don't know where it goes. Like sometimes we have
which
stuff
is a
and I'm
problem.
like,
we've been married for...
I know, but every once in a while I'll get something like, what is this thing? I don't even know what this is. Where's
I know, but then you
then I'll just
ask
put
me.
it somewhere. Yeah, I'll just put it somewhere.
No, you don't put it anywhere. You leave it on the counter. It's, you guys, it's like, it's almost to the point sometimes where I'm like, I'm not even going to ask you to help me because I already know what this is going to turn into, and I'm already annoyed just thinking about it. But also something you do along the lines of the cleaning thing is when you clean bowls or pans or whatever, you leave them upright to dry instead of flipping them over to let the water drain.
I mean, you'd rather flip them over and then have all that heat and condensation and moisture caught in there so it never actually dries?
No, you leave a crack. You leave it open a little bit.
I'm sure. You put it down and then you're going to put it back in there, and it's still going to be condensation.
No.
Yeah, no, yes, that's exactly what happens.
So I'm going to keep it upright so there's actual pool of water sitting in it.
Yes,
so then when
that's
I go
fine.
shake it out, it's actually more wet than if it was actually flipped over.
No, and you flip it
with
over.
a little bit of air passageway to get that condensation out and dry accurately.
Tell me, in all honesty, you put an air passageway every time you put something
I
down.
do.
Not a chance.
Yes, I do.
Never.
Because
I will try to put a cup away, and I'm like, well, it's all wet inside, so what am I going to do about that?
Ben, honestly, tell me how many times that has actually happened.
A lot.
No.
Many.
When it's been on the counter drying, like
Yes.
on our little drying
mat. And then
mat.
I take it up, and it's condensation inside because that water's trapped in there the whole time with it down, and there's no air getting in there.
Okay, well you're telling me that's the reason why you keep huge bowls, salad bowls,
Yes.
and huge pans
Yes.
upright
Yep.
when you're letting them dry.
I shake it out.
But
And then
there's
put
still
it
so much
upright
water
so that
in
the air
there.
can dry it out. Yeah.
No, but it doesn't dry it out. I'm having to shake the water out when I put it away.
Yeah, or you can use a towel like a normal human.
Okay, well then just use a towel when you're done and put it away at the time that you're washing it. Honestly, like when I see you do that, I'm like, what is this?
I agree to disagree.
I mean, it's like, I love the help, but do I?
I agree to disagree on this one.
Oh my gosh. Anyways, that was my bonus one.
Yeah. The bonus when we said we're not going to try to like rip on each other or do anything like that, and then just came out with a hatchet.
No, this was my opportunity to ask why you do things like why you did do it like that.
Yeah, something like
perfect
that.
opportunity to ask why, because I've been meaning to ask you why you keep them upright like that, because
Now you know.
Because it's obviously the wrong way.
Now you know.
Now I know. So, if there is anybody who would like to be on my side about this, please let me know. If there's anybody on Ben's side, that's fine. Please let him know. Anyways, thank you for listening this week. We will see you next time. Have a wonderful week. Thanks for joining us on Bizography. Please subscribe or leave a comment. And if you have questions or want to open up a discussion, you can find us on Instagram or Facebook at Bizography. See you next time.